Life can be hard. We all know it, but that doesn't always make it easier. Life comes with loss, discouragement, and fear. We find ourselves asking, does anyone care? Does God even care? He does, and you're not as alone as you might feel. Even for believers, things don't always go the way we expect. We all know it or discover it soon enough. Life tests our patience, our hope, and our sense of God's presence. It's easy to be overcome by fear, to lose our way, to feel alone. But you're not left hopeless in those challenges. God's presence is more certain than even the inevitability of hardship. Still, there are times in life we need to be reminded. God is present. It's in hardship we learn to recognize it. Christians also learn to depend on Him, to wait, and to look forward to His rescue, to the good things to come. The Sea of Galilee is still known for its unexpected weather patterns. Water that is still and quiet 1 minute can quickly turn into huge waves and into a ferocious storm with building wind. It didn't start that way when the disciples set out one evening, but somewhere on their trip, things went bad quickly. Some of these men understood storms because they knew the Sea of Galilee as well as you know your commute to work. They worked in boats on these waters. They knew what the weather was capable of. They were professional fishermen, skilled and wise and experienced in the ways of this lake. So when the storm grew and water began to break into the boat, when the disciples began to panic, they weren't being melodramatic. They knew all too well the gravity of the situation. Water was filling their boat. This was a storm that none of their skills or experience could save them from. I wonder which disciple first realized that Jesus was still asleep. As the winds grew stronger and the waves began to swamp the boat, there was Jesus, still lying in the back of the boat, his head still on a pillow, still sleeping. Panicked and afraid, they woke Jesus up with the question, "Don't you care? Don't you care that we're sinking?" It seems that Jesus didn't scramble to his feet or panic at what he saw. He simply rebuked the storm. He told it to settle down, and it did. It had been the power of the wind and waves which unnerved the disciples, but now they encountered an even greater power. The words of Jesus were greater. His presence was a power greater than the storms. That power had been with them from the beginning of their trip across the lake. Reading that story, I was struck by how real the disciples' question was. It's the same thing we ask when we find ourselves in trouble and afraid. Does God even care? Are we alone? Are we going down with the boat? If we're honest, most of us have been there, and we know that sense of panic. We know the fear and the anxiety. We even know the feeling of helplessness. We face storms. We face confusing situations. We look around and wonder if God is sleeping through this one too. But we can't let ourselves forget who is with us. There is power with us. There is a power greater than anything you will face with you in your boat. Jesus has come to us. He's become one of us. And now the Spirit of Christ lives in us. Recognizing the power of Jesus, Mark records that the disciples were terrified. It was a new kind of fear, awe as it's sometimes called. How could they have missed it? How could they have overlooked it? This power was with them all the time. You and I have a tendency to forget as well, to get distracted and overwhelmed in the moment and forget who is with us and what He has promised us. God is with you. His power is with you. You just need to remember His presence, to know it again for yourself. What keeps you from remembering His power? What distracts you? And how can you prepare yourself for hardships by learning to live in the reality of His presence? How will you know His presence?